time for the power rankings.
All right.
Are you ready to tear me up over the power rankings? I've started doing these while watching Monday Night Football. I used to do them on Tuesday morning. I now kind of get into a groove while watching Monday Night Football, and I get a good sense of where teams need to go. And I was inspired by you the other day with your challenge about the Steelers. I've decided to cluster the undefeated teams at the top.
Wow.
It's been long enough. If you're undefeated, you're getting one of the prime spots. 3 undefeated teams left. Seahawks, Titans, Steelers, you're the top 3 teams in the league.
Yeah, I like that. I mean, I agree with you. You know, again, yeah, we can sit here and talk about the Steelers' schedule. It's not the greatest. It doesn't matter. They're winning. And that was their first big test the other night, the other Sunday. And they beat the crap out of the Browns. So, yeah, good for you. Honestly, Mike, in your top 5 right now, I look at it. I mean, I really like your top 5. I'll tell you the thing I'd probably do differently, and I know this is hard to do. I'd probably move the Seahawks to 5 and bump everybody up a spot. I look at those 4 AFC teams at 2, 3, 4, and 5. I think, again, the complete team conversation is what I keep getting into here. All those teams can kind of do everything. There's not one glaring weakness on those 4 AFC teams. We know, yes, Russell Wilson and that offense are serious and awesome, but, man, that defense is seriously bad. To where I just think as a team right now, I probably wouldn't put them in the same area as the Titans, Steelers, Chiefs, and Ravens.
You know, I don't necessarily disagree with that. They're at number 1 because they've been at number 1, and I've got a thing about moving the team out of number 1 until they lose, which they almost did in their last game on a Sunday night against the Vikings. But when you made that point and I envisioned those other 4 teams bump up, my thought was, the Super Bowl is going to stink this year. I mean, who from the NFC is going to hang with one of those teams? I know who.
Scary.
I know who has a chance of doing it.
Yeah.
There's one team that has a chance of doing it, and you know who I'm talking about.
Yeah, Tampa. I mean, this is who we've been talking about. Again, Tampa's not a finished product, but the more you watch them, you start to go the same thing we just said about the AFC teams. You go, there's really not a glaring weakness. I know they're secondary. You know, people getting on me on Twitter because I've made some of these comments lately like, well, what about their secondary? They're up. Yes, I get that. I'm not saying they're perfect right now, but I think you and I would both agree, or anybody watching football, it's gotten better every week. And it gets to the point sometimes where you go, whoa, they look amazing. Like, you're not going to be able to move the ball in this defense. Or, whoa, their offense can do anything they want. They can run the ball, play action pass, quick passes. That's where the Buccaneers and the Saints are still 2 teams where I know you got them at 8 and 9, where I still got I just got a little mark next to them to go, watch out, because they have that complete team mentality too, and they're just not hitting on all cylinders yet.
Yeah, I agree with you. It's about projecting as we think about who can compete in January, where they will be then.
Right.
And the Buccaneers and Saints are poised to keep climbing, and I'd say the Buccaneers even more than the Saints. I'm curious to see what the Saints will be like when Michael Thomas comes back.
Yep.
I'm curious to see whether or not they can get the situation with Michael Thomas under control. They had to kind of sort of suspend him last week, even though officially it wasn't a suspension. It was a 1-game fine. They need to be sure that he's on board. They need to be sure they don't have a problem. And you know what? There's another wild card out there. We talk about complete teams. We talk about teams that may have needs. Antonio Brown's a week and a half away from being available.
Whoa.
And I just wonder, who's going to make that play. Who's going to do it for reasons that are he makes us better? Who's going to consider doing it for he's going to make that team a hell of a lot better? I'd rather get him on our team instead.
Oh, I mean, listen, he's still, we'll see where it goes, but I wouldn't think Antonio Brown's physical ability's fallen off a cliff or anything. Not to say I'm expecting the superstar we saw 2 years ago or anything like that, but, if a team wanted to take that chance, he's certainly going to help your football team as far as what he can do on the field. And then, there's teams, again, like we've talked about, where out of these top 6 teams, the Seahawks, they got to be like, all right, well, yeah, okay, can our defense really get that much better? Or should we just go all in on offense and make another play for a receiver and just go, we're down to go 40-37 every game. We don't care. That's Antonio Brown, Julio Jones, A.J. Green. If I'm the Seahawks, the Ravens, the Packers right now, I am looking at those guys to see, can I get a trade done to get those guys? Because I feel like I'm in a Super Bowl team, and I just need that one other player to kind of put us over the hump there. I think that's going to be interesting to watch here in the next few weeks.
And last year, the Seahawks reportedly were looking at Antonio Brown at the time that they signed Josh Gordon, and they still have Josh Gordon. He's just not cleared to play. You have to wonder, are the Seahawks thinking about it? And that's where it becomes three-dimensional chess, because if the Seahawks are looking at this possibility and it makes them better, and you know Tom Brady wants Antonio Brown in Tampa, and Bruce Arians doesn't, and they've got a great array of receivers, but if they're not healthy, right?
Yeah.
Then how do you make the argument we shouldn't have Antonio Brown? If I'm Tom Brady, I'm like, hey, Bruce, I understand that you've got Mike Evans and Chris Godwin and Scotty Miller and we've got Gronk, but every week one of these guys isn't healthy.
I think Bruce is
Antonio
scarred.
Brown's never injured.
Yeah.
He's scarred from 2 years with Antonio Brown.
Exactly. And probably the other horror stories he heard from Pittsburgh Steelers coaches after he left and all that, to where I think he's heard so many things, he's probably like, I'm not dealing with that.
But you know what? Maybe Bruce Arians can be worn down if he says, hey, Tom, you're responsible for him.
Yeah, that could work.
We'll go get him, but he's your responsibility, and if it doesn't work, it's on you, and you're going to be the one who has to go tell him, get the hell out of here.
Yeah.
You have to keep him in line, and if you don't, you have to tell him, see you later.
Yeah, listen, Tom could probably pull that off. Tom is amazing with the team. He really is. You know, he's got special leadership qualities. You know that. He really does, and he's obviously bonded with Antonio Brown. Yeah, get him there, put him up in like one of the suites in the Jeter household there on Hillsborough Bay, and here we go.
But it is I think intriguing to consider that mindset. You know, do the Saints get back in it? They brought him in for a workout last year.
Right.
Is he a guy that helps their offense? Do the Packers take a look at him? Is Aaron Rodgers banging on the door saying, hey, one of these other teams is going to sign this guy? I really do think the NFC teams,
they're the ones,
need him more than the AFC teams, because they understand what they're going to be up against when it's the Titans, the Steelers, the Ravens, or the Chiefs in the Super Bowl.
Yeah, no, I agree. I mean, I look at the Seahawks and Packers. I just don't think you're going to be able to sit there and depend on your defense. You got to go, all right, you know, the strength is we're going to win with our quarterback, our offense. You know, just like we saw again on Saturday or Sunday with Green Bay, if the game doesn't fall the right way, you know, they don't have enough weapons to go around, and that's where they need another guy. I will say the Ravens are another team where, you know, I saw the comments yesterday. They were talking about the bye week, right? They were going to take time to work on the passing game. You know, 2 weeks ago when they played the Bengals, I felt like they had a game where they kind of were like, we're going to throw, even though we think we can run, we're going to work on the passing game. I like that. They, I think, are another team that needs – I would like to see them dabble in the wide receiver conversation because, again, they get in the playoffs with the Chiefs and the Titans. They're not going to be able to just think we're going to steamroll these teams and run them over. There's no way. The Chiefs got big physical dudes up front. They can hang in there with the Ravens up front, as we've seen. And they can make it, okay, Lamar, you have to pass to beat us. So do the Titans. And that, to me, is going to be the big question about the Ravens as we get in the playoffs. If somebody slows down that run game, can Lamar and his right arm in that passing game help carrying them over in that one game they need it? And so far, it's been no through the Lamar Jackson era.
And, you know, there was some public jostling by guys like Lamar Jackson and Hollywood Brown, Antonio's cousin, to get Antonio on the team. And I poked around the edges of that a little bit. I don't think that the Ravens really want him.
Doesn't, right.
And I'm not so sure that Lamar and Hollywood aren't just being courteous. Hollywood still has to have a relationship with his cousin. But, you know, the reality is you bring a guy in who's going to want the football. I mean, that you've got to be able to manage a guy who's going to come in and want the football. And when Lamar and Hollywood are so much younger than Antonio and maybe inclined to defer to him, I don't know that that's the right way to go.
Yeah, I get you.
You need a spot like Tampa where Tom Brady, 10 years older plus than Antonio Brown, and has that relationship that they forged very quickly during his limited time in New England. Whatever that relationship is, if Antonio Brown is going to be deferential to Tom Brady, I think that's going to work. Wherever Antonio Brown goes, he needs to be willing to defer. He needs to be on a one-strike situation, and he needs to not feel emboldened to behave the way he did in Pittsburgh or the way he did with the Raiders, because that's one of the reasons why he's in his current predicament, Chris.
Yeah, no, exactly right. I I'm hopeful that he's turned his life around and he can maybe get out there and play. It's been a tough situation. It really has, and it's been a little unfair to him in a lot of ways. So we'll see. But, yeah, that's going to be interesting with some teams needy for wide receivers. Where you want to go with the power rankings next? What else do you want to talk about?
Yeah, I don't know. That was a good conversation. I forgot we were even talking about the power rankings. Let's look at the back half. Let's see who's lurking and see if there's any hope for some of these teams to maybe snap out of it over the balance of the season.
Where did about your 19 with your 49ers, right? The 49ers to me right now are like one of the most confusing teams, in football. I don't know what to think. I know they're talented when they're healthy and everything like that. It seems like they are getting healthy. I think they figured out some of the issues with their defense that we saw in the Dolphins game that was horrible 2 weeks ago. And then they come out and kick the crap out of the Rams for the most part in that game. Who's at 11? Did you have a hard time figuring out where the hell you wanted to put the 49ers?
Yes.
Yeah.
I wanted to move them higher than 19,
right.
But there's the Dolphins at 18, and they just beat them 43-17 a week and a half ago. I didn't want to have 1,000 emails from Dolphins fans saying, what the hell, or something stronger than that.
Yeah. I get it. I do. I mean, that's where I look at the 49ers and go, okay, and I'm not trying to be disrespectful. The Raiders at 3-2, the Browns at 4-2, the Panthers at 3-3. I think they're better than those teams. I mean, I feel like they are, but you're right. It's hard to pull the trigger and necessarily put them in front of them with not the most quality-looking wins and being kind of all over the place. The potential of them is still top 10, but I don't know.
Who's going to show up?
Yeah.
Which team's going to show up?
Right.
The team that beat the Rams in primetime or the team that lost back-to-back games to the Eagles and got blown off the field by the Dolphins?
Yeah.
Which team is it going to be?
I know.
So that's why they're kind of middle of the pack, and that's why their hard ceiling for now is the Miami Dolphins, because the Dolphins have the same record, and the Dolphins destroyed them, dismantled them.
I know.
I could not put them ahead of the Dolphins, and I couldn't justify moving the Dolphins any higher. So that's how they ended up sticking at number 19.
Yeah.
So
look,
it's tough between 10 and 20.
Well, yeah,
it's tough. We don't know who's going to rise up out of that mess. And here's the thing: every year, there's a team that ends up lurking around 5-5, Thanksgiving-ish, and they start winning games.
No doubt.
They get into that. It's really the playoffs, even though it isn't mode.
Right.
And they know they've got a limited window of opportunity, so they start winning and winning and winning, and then they carry that into the postseason. That's what the Patriots did in 2001.
Yes.
When they lost to the Rams in primetime on a Sunday night at home, they fell to 5-5, and then after that, off it went, and it ended beating the Rams in the Super Bowl.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I think that's why you got the Patriots at number 12 right now, right? I mean, that's what you kind of I hear you there. That was probably another team hard to do in the top 20 because you go, damn, they're 2-3. There's certainly better teams with better records. They lose to Broncos. We know they're better than Denver. They really weren't stopped in the game. It was just one mistake after another. Holy cow. I give you credit for putting them at 12 because I think their 3 losses, 2 of them are against really, really good teams. And then, last week was unusual circumstances as well, where I'm with you. I think they're one of those teams that is better than their record, that's for sure.
And think about this. We've reached a consensus on the best 4 teams right now in the AFC, the Ravens, the Titans, the Steelers, and the Chiefs, not in that order. The one team that none of those 4 will want to see in January in their first playoff game.
They're made for the playoffs, right? They're made for the playoffs because it's game plan specific stuff. They can run the football and they can do things on defense to shut down certain areas to see where it goes. The big thing with the Patriots going forward, just something to watch out for all those people out there, whatever, is just connect. This is where I'm concerned, especially this week. 49ers coming to town, Shanahan run game. The Patriots have an issue there. They do. They don't have enough big people on their roster. They don't have enough defensive tackles. Mike, they were playing Chase Vinovich at defensive tackle in the 3-4 Richard Seymour spot the other day. They were having plays where Dietrich Wise at 265 pounds is playing 3 technique. That's why Phillip Lindsay ran for 100-something yards. That to me is troubling a little bit. To where they're going to have to figure that out, sign somebody else, make a trade, whatever. But they lack big people to where that could be one of their kryptonites here going forward.
And Bill Belichick was talking about that run game yesterday, and it was not the Lou Holtz perfunctory, flowery stuff. It was real concern about what they do and how they get the ball into so many different players' hands and how they keep everything moving and everyone guessing. And it's really going to be a challenge for the Patriots this weekend.
It is.
And we will feel very differently about the 49ers if they can go into New England and win there, like they did the last time they went to New England in 2012 when Colin Kaepernick.
Yeah, I was there. I was there.
That was a hell of a game on a Sunday night in December, I think it was, of 2012.
One of the greatest teams I've ever seen in my life in person, Mike. Just one of the greatest physical specimen teams you'll ever see in your life. That 2012. 2011, 2013 49er team, Navarro, Bowman, and Willis, and, Justin Smith, and I'm missing other guys on the defense they had, but they were just unbelievable looking. Their offensive line, Kaepernick was impressive. I mean, they
had Alden Smith those years.
Oh, Alden Smith, too. Holy crap. I mean, they were just all across the board. It was one stud out. It was one of those where they got off the bus, and I'll go back to something you've heard me say where I went, whoa, if a bar fight breaks out between all 32 teams in football, I know who's winning. It's going to be the 49ers. That was a cool game to watch.
And you know what? When you reflect on that, grand scheme of things, 8 years ago wasn't really all that long. It is stunning to think how dramatically NFL rosters turn over.
It is.
In what is, for the rest of us, not all that long of a period of time.
No.
But in the NFL, every year there's churn, and you look back 4, 5, 6 years, and you got a completely different team than you had just a half a decade ago. All right, let's take a break.
Hi, I'm Mike Tirico, and thanks for watching. Make sure to hit subscribe for the latest news and highlights from NBC Sports.